You can see the computer age everywhere, except in the productivity statistics.
That's not a tweet. That's a Nobel Prize-winning economist describing one of the biggest mysteries in modern economic history. Computers were everywhere. Businesses spent billions on them, and yet the numbers didn't move. How is that possible? And why does the answer matter more today than it ever has?
Quick recap. Last episode, we covered innovation as recombination, how a retired engineer beat NASA's best scientists using knowledge from a completely different field. Ideas aren't resources that run out. Every invention adds more Lego blocks to the pile. But here's the follow-up question nobody asks. If all these innovations keep stacking up, where does the money actually go? Where do we see it in real life? Today we answer that, and the answer is stranger than you'd expect. First, what is productivity? Simple definition: producing more output from the same amount of input. A farmer with a tractor grows 10 times more food than a farmer with a shovel. Same hours, same land, radically different output. That gap, that's productivity. And here's why it matters. Countries don't get richer because people work more hours. They get richer because they find better ways to work. Productivity is the engine behind every rise in living standards in modern history. So when computers arrived in the 1970s and 80s, economists expected the productivity numbers to explode. They didn't. Computers were in every office. Businesses were spending billions. And Robert Solow, Nobel Prize winner, made his famous observation: you can see the computer age everywhere except in the productivity statistics. This became known as the productivity paradox, and it confused economists for 2 decades. To understand what was happening, go back 100 years to electricity. When electric power first appeared, factory owners did something completely logical. They replaced their steam engines with electric motors. And almost nothing changed. Productivity barely moved. Why? Because factories were still designed around steam. Every machine was arranged around one giant central engine, with belts and shafts running power to each workstation. They swapped the engine. They kept everything else the same. The real revolution came 30 years later, when engineers finally redesigned the factories from scratch. Instead of one central engine, they used dozens of small motors, one per machine. Suddenly, machines could be arranged by workflow instead of by proximity to a power shaft. Assembly lines became possible. Efficiency exploded. The technology had been there for 30 years. The transformation took 30 years to follow. Computers followed the exact same pattern. Companies first bought computers and kept their old processes. New technology, old organization, minimal gains. Then some companies did something different. Walmart didn't just buy computers, they rebuilt retail around computers. Real-time inventory tracking, automatic supplier integration, cross-docking at warehouses, goods arriving from suppliers going directly onto outbound trucks without ever sitting in storage. Demand forecasting that predicted what 4,000 stores would need before they asked. The computer wasn't the innovation. The redesigned business was the innovation. And the gains were enormous. Researchers found that for every $1 spent on computer hardware, companies needed to invest several more dollars in software, training, and, most importantly, organizational redesign. That's why benefits appeared slowly. They were waiting for the rest of the transformation to catch up. On average, 5 to 7 years between the investment and the visible productivity gain. By the late 1990s, the paradox disappeared. IT investment exploded. The internet hit critical mass. Businesses had finally redesigned around digital systems, and productivity surged. The computer revolution showed up in the economic statistics, right on schedule, about 25 years late. Now replace the word computer with AI. Right now, companies everywhere are buying AI tools, experimenting, running pilots, asking employees to use AI more. But most organizations have not redesigned themselves around AI the way Walmart redesigned itself around computers. The technology is here. The transformation hasn't happened yet. History says the biggest productivity gains from AI aren't behind us, they're still ahead. We are closer to 1905 than to 1999. So here's the takeaway: technology arrives first, benefits arrive later. Always. The gap isn't failure, it's the time it takes for the rest of the world, the organizations, the processes, the business models, to reorganize around the new tool. Steam took decades, electricity took decades, computers took decades. And that means this: if you're watching in 2026 feeling like AI hasn't changed your industry yet, you're not wrong. You're just early. The surge is coming. The question is whether your organization is redesigning now or waiting to catch up later. If this reframed how you see AI adoption, subscribe, because next episode we tackle the question everyone is afraid to ask. When machines get this productive, what actually happens to your job? See you there.